is happening, Magnus? This should be funny. This should be funny. Because you know who it is. The Critical Drinker. Get on over and follow the drinker. Tell him Tyrone Magnus sent you.
You know, all these controversies and bad press swirling around James Gunn's Supergirl not by James Gunn got me thinking to myself, surely there must have been a better way to do this. Surely...
It does look like he directed it. It really does, man. It's like they know what he wants. They know his look. They know what he goes for. Kind of reminds me when I first started watching Lois and Superman and Lois. Y'all know the newest series. And I was like, when I was watching the first seasons, and even like, I haven't finished the rest, but all throughout, I was like, yo, there's hints of Zach in here, man. And then people were telling me, yeah, certain directors of the episodes, whoever, they're fans of Zach. And I was like, I see some emulation here. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to me, too, like, when I watched The Last of Bad Boys, those two directors made it look like Michael Bay directed that movie. I was like, I could tell it wasn't him, but it was really close to his feel. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, it was some brothers, right? That directed it? Or was it? Let me see. I'm getting kind of twisty here because how many there's 4, right? Is that what it is? It's 4? No. It's 3? No, it's 4 Bad Boy movies, right? The last 2. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to look it up. Y'all know what I mean.
The mega minds at DC
going off on a rant
to introduce this movie to the public in a way that would win people over and get them excited instead of turning them away. And so I asked myself, what could I have done differently if I was in charge? Could the drinker in fact have fixed Supergirl? I mean, I know this series is more about rewriting existing movies than managing PR campaigns, but hey, I could be flexible. And really, it touches on the same issues that a lot of movies experience these days, so why not use it as a learning experience for all of us?
Man,
ready? Too bad, I'm going in anyway. Now, the first and most important thing they should have done with this movie was to understand their market, and not just what it wants, but how big it even is anymore. And this is where I have to deliver some unpleasant truths, dear view.
I tell you this, I feel like the market ain't as big as it used to be. Look, let me tell you something, guys. Look. My biggest video that I've ever made, no matter what, is the unboxing of the Infinity Gauntlet when Infinity War came out. Okay? As a matter of fact, I unboxed it before Infinity War came out. And after Infinity War came out, see, YouTube gives us an app called YouTube Studio. Allows us to keep track of our videos, the views we're getting, subscribers. It lets us know how much money we're making. It lets us know a lot of stuff. So when you're a full-time YouTuber, you check it several times per day. I all of a sudden noticed that my money was growing exponentially, very quickly. It was abnormal for how fast it was growing. I was like, what the hell is going on? I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what is this? And I was like, wait a minute. So I went to my top performing videos. It was going through the roof. Through the roof, the unboxing. I can't remember what it started out with, but when it ended, it was 14 million. And I was like, oh my God. Then the dark times hit us. After Captain Marvel time, the more unboxings that I did, people showed they weren't interested in Marvel anymore. And I had several unboxings after that were a few million views and stuff like that. But the more it got deeper into them pissing fans off and changing so much and virtue signaling, no one cares about Marvel like that. We still do. We still have hope. But the fan base is not like that anymore. They don't care. That's what I've always told you guys. Like, you in the beginning of my career. You are the guys inadvertently that really gave me a secure career in YouTube because you asked me to do several different types of videos. Like, think if I had just stayed doing WWE. There was a point where they heavily fell off and I couldn't watch them no more. Was that due to a career of someone that wants to be a wrestling talk YouTuber? Not too good, right? But fortunately, my followers asked me to do reactions and talk about crazy news stories and answer their questions and do gaming and everything else that I do, unboxings. You're the guys that asked me to do all that. So now the channel is a Swiss Army knife. It's not specialized. It's not a sniper rifle. No, we got a whole lot of shit in the bag that we do here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very thankful for my followers. I appreciate you because being specialized in the YouTube business can be a problem.
They're not going to taste very good, but just like Tatiana, you will swallow them. And in the end, you'll thank me. I mean, she never has, though. Truth number one is that superhero movies in general just aren't very popular anymore. I've already talked about superhero fatigue, oversaturation of the market, and the general decline of audience interest ad nauseum in other videos, so I'm not going to bore you with the whole argument again here. Instead, I'll just point to the MCU's box office returns as an example. In the 7 years from 2012 until 2019, the MCU had a total of 9 movies that grossed over $1 billion each. In the 7 years.
Yeah, by the way, I stopped doing the Marvel unboxings for the most part because it's like, nobody, all these movies are pissing people off. Nobody cares about unboxing any of these memorabilia. No one cares. You know what I'm saying? At least not my fans, not my fan base. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, my fan base is part of a much larger fan base. And if my followers think in a certain way, a lot of others are. And the majority of my followers are the type of people that have left Marvel. And that's the reason why Disney's been doing so bad.
Since then, you know how many they've managed? 2. And both of those films relied heavily on nostalgia to get arses in seats. Now, that's bad enough, but
True.
shall I hit you with another harsh truth? Well, I don't care if you're ready, I'm doing it anyway. Female-led superhero movies don't tend to make money. Hey, don't hate me for telling inconvenient truths. And don't just take my word for it either. The numbers speak for themselves. In the past decade, there's been 9 major female-led superhero movies in theaters. And of those 9, only 3 have actually managed to turn a profit. Captain Marvel, Wakanda Forever, and Wonder Woman.
Captain Marvel's got a damn asterisk next to it. We've already talked about this. All of the empty theaters, the debacle with Rotten Tomato reviews, and the rumors going around that Disney bought up a bunch of empty theaters, so it made it look like the movie made money. Plus my call to Hollywood, where I was speaking with people that was saying, yeah, studios do that all the time. I absolutely believe it.
That means only 1 in 3 female-led superhero movies from the past decade have actually succeeded. And out of those 3, Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel both came out before the decline of superhero movies in general, and both of those crashed out with disastrous sequels that brought in 80% less than their predecessors. The only film to buck the trend here is Wakanda Forever, which ported a female character in to replace the male lead of the previous film after the actor passed away in real life. It's kinda hard to gauge the merits of this film on its own because in some ways it was coasting on the massive success of the first Black Panther movie, although I would point out that it made $500 million less at the box office. All of this is a long-winded way of saying that female-led superhero movies have a pretty spotty success rate, especially in recent years. Then there's name recognition to think about.
I think it's also because they people knew what they were doing. I think if these were genuinely good movies, which a lot of them weren't, and people weren't under the impression that they were being preached to, that there was an agenda, that virtue signaling was going on, I think that a lot of these female-led movies would have gotten more of a shot with the fans. And that's the reason why Wonder Woman did what it did. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah.
See, Superman himself is about as ubiquitous as any fictional character can possibly be. You could pick almost any human being on the face of the earth, from a goat herder in Peru to an izakaya owner in Japan. Show them a picture of Superman and they'll probably know exactly who he is. He's had endless comics, movies, TV shows, cartoons and merchandise made about him for almost 100 years now. He may be one of the single most marketable characters ever created. Well, apart from this fucking thing at least. Supergirl, though? Not so much. Especially in the world of film and TV, which is what we're talking about here. Her first and so far only big screen outing was the disastrous 1984
yeah, it didn't
movie.
work.
God bless Helen Slater, though. She tried her little heart out with that one. And while the TV show from a few years ago had some fans on the CW, it was hardly a global success. One failed movie from 40 years ago and a mildly successful TV show don't exactly launch a character into the public consciousness. Now, all of this is relevant because Superman, based around a far more popular and well-known character, in the movie that was supposed to relaunch an entirely new universe of DC on film, barely scraped its way to $600 million last year. That is not a good result, no matter how people try to spin it. Well, and realistically, it's probably as good as it's going to get for DC. And
they felt as though Man of Steel underperformed, correct? It didn't perform to what they wanted. And neither did Batman v Superman perform to what they wanted, whether they're profitable or not. So it's like, it's kind of weird with people spinning it like it's like a big, you know what I mean? When it's like, wait a minute, now if you look at the other Superman stuff, this Warner Brothers was feeling like they didn't do well enough. Now you want to put this as a win? Like, come on now. Like, if they all made profit, then they're all wins.
Now, I think it's safe to say that Supergirl is going to make less than that did. It's just a question of how much. The reality is that regardless of its creative merits, and that's debatable right now, a movie like Supergirl is weak. It's a lame duck. The only way it can succeed is by using what I call the Captain Marvel doctrine. Riding the momentum of a strong and successful franchise and convincing audiences they just have to see this film if they want to understand the big overarching story. Now, that worked great for Marvel back in 2019, but sadly, it's not 2019 anymore and this ain't Marvel. It would have made infinitely more sense to give the heavy hitters like Superman, Batman and Wonder Woman their own solo movies, team them up for a money-spinning Justice League crossover, and then start introducing B-tier characters like Supergirl in the next phase, when presumably you'd have enough commercial momentum and fan goodwill to actually support them. What I'm saying here is that if you add all these different factors together, the challenging market for
But at the end of the day, if they're not good, it's not going to work anyway. You know what I mean? If it's not good, it's not going to work anyway.
Superhero movies in general these days, the historically low success rate of female-led superhero flicks in particular, and the lackluster state of the franchise it's now part of, then the chances of box office glory for Supergirl look about as likely as Gal Gadot winning an Oscar for Best Actress. A more likely scenario is a global haul somewhere in the region of $400 million.
I thought I was going to throw in the clip to cut out. No.
Not exactly.
I never even paid attention to that clip until people brought it up so much. I was like, oh man.
Great, but it also doesn't have to be a disaster either if you keep your budget under control, like under $100 million. Any serious market research would have told them this way in advance, and if they had the common sense, they would have acted on it. Recognize the potential, but also the limitations of your film, and accept that just throwing more money at the problem isn't going to fix it. Superman had one of the most over-the-top marketing campaigns in Hollywood history, and well, look where it got them. The second unpleasant truth we have to come to terms with here is that if you're a movie studio, the media is not your friend. Yeah, they might be all fake smiles and friendly puff piece interviews, but at the end of the day, they have all the sincerity of a female compliment. What they really want to do is sell headlines, generate clicks, make noise online, and nothing generates headlines like a good controversy. That is what they are looking for every minute of every day. No entertainment journalist worth their salt wants to report on a happy and harmonious production that's releasing into a welcoming market and expecting to do just...
That's why I like the whole thing with Black Snape and other characters like that. Like, I think they just want the controversy. Like, they know the people, they know what will actually make them money, and they know what the people want, but they just keep doing it. So I'm like, they just want people all at each other's throats and arguing and fighting. That's all they want.
Fine. What they want is conflict, backlash, sensationalism, brave actors taking a stand against hatred and intolerance. They want to dig up something, anything to get people to click on that news article, to land that next big scoop, even if they have to goad actors and celebrities into talking about things that they clearly do not want to talk about.
The reason I'm asking about the past is that you've talked in other interviews again about
Mr. RDJ
with your father and the role of all of that in
look how mad he is.
The dark period.
You could tell.
And taking drugs and drinking and all of that. And I just wondered when...
Woo, he is mad. Holy shit.
You're free of all
You can
of that?
feel it.
Or whether that's still something...
I'm sorry, I really don't... what are we doing?
Case in point, Millie Alcock's recent statements about being a young actress in not one but two major franchises, House of the Dragon and now Supergirl. Now, that was all part of a much bigger and longer interview that covered all manner of topics, but the moment she happened to mention the reaction to her as a woman online, well, guess what every major news outlet decided to lead with. And the thing is, it didn't have to happen that way. All she really needed to say was, fans are free to think whatever they like. All I can say is that I gave this role my best shot, I'm grateful for this opportunity, and hopefully people will give the movie a fair chance and judge for themselves. It's simple, it's humble, and it's uncontroversial. It's not going to win you any fans in the news media, but it's not going to turn your own customers against you. And at the end of the day, those are the important ones.
Got my vitamin C for
and all
the
of
day.
this brings me to my third and final unpleasant truth here. Actors can fucking kill your movie. Actors today don't just have to perform in the film anymore. They also have to be borderline professional hype men,
Never saw that angle.
gurus, salesmen, raconteurs, and politicians all rolled into one. And with
You
an
get Scarlo that
entertainment
dress.
complex that's always sniffing around for the next headline, one
Lord.
fuck-up is all it takes to derail a film's entire promo campaign. Now, I'll admit that some actors are better at this than others. Some are master bullshit artists who can talk for hours without really saying anything and still look good doing it. Others can effortlessly deflect attempts to bait them, using charm and a bit of verbal panache to get the conversation back on track without making things awkward.
I'm curious if that's comparable to this sort of world, this culture of toxic fandom, where like if you make a movie, especially if you make a superhero movie, like you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
As they always try to say, small yet vocal. No, the small audience is the audience that they keep saying exists, that doesn't show up for all of these movies and TV shows and video games. That's the small audience.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have.
You damn right, Henry.
People are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Unfortunately, though, others don't just walk straight into the trap. They run into it head first and then keep going like they're taking...
Hey, let me tell you something. Even if Henry didn't believe a thing he said, he knows how to make sure the fans don't hate him. I tell you that.
Taking a fucking victory lap. The most extreme example is obviously going to be Rachel Zegler, whose never-ending cavalcade of PR disasters obliterated any chance of success for Snow White, but there's plenty of others that have walked the same tragic path. Brie Larson effectively derailed her career for at least half a decade by coming across as prickly, aloof, combative, and about as likeable as a shit sandwich during her Captain Marvel interviews, with journalists who were only too happy to feed the controversy. And all of that negative PR came back to bite her big time with the Marvels. Only in recent years has she finally realised that these people are not on her side, and they never were, and the only correct move is not to play.
Sort of outspoken and very vocal advocate for Time's Up and Me Too. I'm curious how you feel about Johnny Depp's film opening the festival, and do you plan to see it?
You're asking me that?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't understand the correlation, or why me specifically.
All of this is to say that if you're making a movie like Supergirl, and you've got a young and impressionable lead who's still learning the fame game, and could easily be baited into saying things that might harm your film's prospects, you should be very fucking careful about who you let them talk to. And you should give them as much media training as you possibly can beforehand. A single unguarded answer can cause weeks of negative media coverage, stir up fan resentment, and turn customers away from a movie they might have been on the fence about otherwise. So in a nutshell then, the drinker's advice for fixing Supergirl's PR and giving the movie a better chance of success could be boiled down to 3 simple steps. 1. Recognize this film.
Well, first of all, I don't think it can be helped right now. It's just that the whole environment is so volatile with everything that's going on, and things still haven't been corrected yet. So I think this is going to take some time.
Film isn't going to be a heavy hitter at the box office, and either release it later into the slate when there's other bigger films to support it, or adjust the budget accordingly. 2. Recognize that the media aren't your friends and the paying customers aren't your enemies, and treat both accordingly. 3. Recognize that actors can and do say stupid things, and young and impressionable actors most of all, so be very careful about who they talk to and what they say. I'm not going to pretend you'd end up with a money printing machine on your hands if you do this stuff, but you'd at least have a better shot at success. And
You know, a lot of these actors need to also be more cognizant of the roles that they take too. I do realize it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and being an actor even before this and making different small budget films and stuff like that, and getting to know a lot of other actors out there, I found out that so many actors out there are desperate for roles. They are so desperate for roles. And because they've thrown everything into this. And I never wanted to be like that. I never wanted to have to take a role. And I think a lot of these people do. Like when I found out, especially, like you think, like the ones that make the most money are the A-listers. B, do damn good. But after that, you know, and you would be surprised at how much money certain B-list actors make. Okay, I found out I was making more than certain B-list actors. And I'm like, wow. So they're so hungry just to make some damn money, they'll take any role, no matter, you know what I mean? And I told my agent, I told you, and this is a few years ago, I said, listen, do not send me any auditions for any show or movies that are going to piss the fans off with what they're doing. I no longer got one audition after that. The whole machine was going in that direction. You get it? So I'm glad I built a business for me on YouTube. I don't have to worry about none of that. Okay? Like, it's just, it feels exhausting and depressing if I were to have made it big time and who signed with somebody big for a several picture deal, and then to feel like a slave almost to have to do those movies or those shows because you signed on. You know what I mean? This is the direction we're going. This is the way it is, buddy. You got to play this role. You got to do this. This is where we're going. You know how much it would suck to have to make a bunch of movies or shows or whatever that the entire majority of the public is telling you, we don't want this. Why do you keep doing this? This sucks. We hate this. Well, why? No. I'd rather be a part of something that people are loving and want. You know what I'm saying?
Really, I think this advice would apply to most Hollywood films at this point. I know it's not going to matter. I know they're never going to listen to some drunken asshole like me. But hey, at least I can say I tried.
Oh, they are listening.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Good job as usual, drinker. You know, they've been listening to all of us for a while, for a long time. They know how we feel. They know how the fandom feels. They signed up for it. There was that thing about BlackRock the other day that came out in the news where, you know what I mean? It shows they're pivoting. We don't really want to go in that direction anymore. Yeah, because it's losing you billions and billions of dollars across all entertainment. All entertainment. Comic books, video games, television series, movies, like everything. All because of this supposed modern audience that exists. Post comments down below. Let me know what you all think about this. If you enjoyed my reaction, hit the like button, subscribe, and share, and subscribe to the Critical Drink Air. That rhymed. Don't hate to play the game. Bars! 10 million subscribers.